Well, first off, thank you so much for joining us for your concert today.
It's a pleasure.
So I've got a fan question for you to start off. Many bands rely on a long-standing, developed, close relationship with their members to write songs and record albums, but you guys are ever-changing. You have members coming in and out all the time. What is that like versus a traditional band setting?
Well, we have our relationships with each other. I mean, we all work together, and I think ultimately we're all musicians, so we like working with other musicians, and it doesn't really matter if we're working with the same group of people. And in fact, I find personally that if you work with the same group of people, it can get a little bit stagnant. Okay. And to have people coming and going is a bit like having some fresh air and a fresh opinion on it. And I think it's sort of kept the band healthy a little bit to have sort of fresh ideas come and go.
Switching things up, yeah. So what is the songwriting process like then when you have up to 19 members at once? Kind of what is that like?
We don't write the songs with 19 people together at the same
time.
Not
all at once?
No. We have all sorts of different ways to write music. Music is, you can really explore music from lots of different angles. We don't do so much of the kind of singer-songwriter where one person writes a song and then we arrange it. We don't often work that way, although we have from time to time. Generally speaking, we'll work together. A few of us will jam out an idea, and musically it'll sound, nice to us. And then we'll sort of see where the mood takes us, and that sort of leads the lyrics, or sometimes even just a sound. It's not even a chord progression or anything. Like just you get a kind of a tone or a timbre which affects you somehow, and it has some sort of emotional quality to it. And then you just kind of, follow its lead. Like we kind of do a lot of back and forth where you play music and then you listen to it and you see what it's telling you. Yeah. And then there's this kind of dialogue that goes back and forth. And that's easier when there's a lot of people too, because you can step back and other people can interpret what the music is doing and add their parts. I mean, the trickiest part of that is not being attached to a vision. Often when you're making music, you have a vision of how you want it to sound. And when you're working with a large group of people, you have to be willing to let go of that vision and let the song be its own composer to a certain degree, and everybody's just adding to it. And that takes a little bit of, patience and a lot of trust to trust each other's ideas. And we all are fans of each other's music too, so it's kind of nice that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how does it feel? You said, you're all fans of each other's music. How does it feel to be a family tree of sorts and watching, past members and current members form their own prominent bands like Feist and Emily and Lisa, of course. What is it like supporting each other that way?
It's funny. It's kind of bittersweet in a way. We're all really proud of each other, and we're really thrilled that we've had a career and success in music, and we're it feels like we feel really lucky. Yeah. But at the same time, when we started, we had this kind of sort of purity about it, where we would just play for each other, and we loved playing for a small audience. There was really no ego involved in making the music, and we were kind of in our way sort of thumbing our nose at the music industry at the beginning, because we just wanted to play music because we love music, and we had this great community, and it felt so pure, and we imagined that there were tons and tons of other communities out there that were the same. And then when we all kind of got swept up together at the same time, and we all ended up touring in different bands, it was really exciting, but at the same time it lost some of its innocence, I guess, But still, I still love what we're doing, and I love all the other people are playing too.
Yeah, well, it must be amazing to kind of collaborate with so many different, unique artists to come together and create something totally different.
It's a very lucky and healthy community.
That's fantastic. And in the past, you guys have contributed to a number of soundtracks, most notably Half Nelson and Snowcake. So if you could make the soundtrack to any film, new or old, what would it be?
Oh.
It's a tough question.
Yeah. Actually, I do love writing music for film. It's it's really amazing what music can do to picture. I'm kind of escaping the question this way, but I remember when we did the soundtrack for Snowcake, we went out to London to record it, and we would write a piece of music, and there's a shot of Alan Rickman's face there on the screen. We play one piece of music to it, and his face looks so sad. And then you put another piece of music, and his face looks so serene. And you put another piece of music there, and his face looks so I don't know. Contrasted, like it really affects how you see. It's amazing how that, and so I mean I really have enjoyed doing soundtrack work, but to get to the question of what, like, am I going to pick one film or a couple films that I would love to?
It's a fully loaded question.
I mean, wow. I mean, I would love to do a really good horror movie, because you can really get into soundscapes and just play with dissonance and like I just think it would be really great to do a really, really terrifying movie.
That'd be a lot of fun.
That would be good. Like I love The Shining is a classic soundtrack.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's Wendy Carlos, formerly Walter Carlos, turned into Wendy Carlos, but that soundtrack is brilliant.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah. So I mean that would be nice to do a good horror movie.
So I think we can all agree that music is really good for an emotional outlet. I think it's something that we generally believe. How has music changed who you are as a person and as an artist?
I think music is amazing because it has such personality. It's amazing how you can hear a note or a combination of notes and hear almost like a personality in that. So to be able to explore music in combination of sounds, harmonic combinations and melodic combinations and textural combinations of sounds, you're really, in a lot of ways, you're learning about yourself and how you experience the world. Because so much of what you're doing is projecting onto the world with these sounds. The sounds are just vibrations in your ear. They're just, it's empty sound waves. And in a way, you're really, you're implying so much onto this music, that to be able to explore different combinations of sounds is a real joy, and it's a real sense of self-discovery. You can get into your darker side, or you can get into your wisdom through these different sounds, and not have the consequences that you might have in ordinary life. So it's a great sort of playground for emotions, I suppose.
So Mind Your Mind is a mental health website, and we're always interested in how creative, busy people are managing their stress. So how do you de-stress, especially on tour? Because I imagine that's a very interesting experience in itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I use music. I use you as my outlet for stress. So.
I meditate.
Okay.
My father was Buddhist. I was raised with Buddhism in my family, so I was taught to meditate at a young age, and just the simple act of sitting your ass on a cushion and following your breath and not fixating on your thoughts.
Being in that moment.
And watching your thoughts come and go, and having a sense of humor about your stress. It's stressful to you at the time, but if you can have sort of a sense of a bit of a bird's eye view on the situation, then you can, I find that I can relate to the stresses of rigorous tour schedules and groundlessness a lot better. So meditation definitely helps, and also communication. We're a healthy band in that we talk about a lot. Like, we'll talk about everything.
That's great.
And we take breaks, which is good.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that you're all from Canada and you get to come back so much, and you're close to home. Yeah,
we don't overwork ourselves, although we toured 9 months last year, but we would never go more than 3 weeks at a time.
Oh, that's great.
So we come home, even if it's just 5 days, it's enough to have some, sanity back in your life.
Not overextending yourself.
Yeah. So we have, over the years, developed more techniques to dealing with the stress and keeping kind of a sober lifestyle.
Yeah. And a lot of people in the winter, they suffer from seasonal affective disorder. So the cold weather and the
lack of daylight. And,
it's really affecting their mood.
For
so
sure.
does the winter ever affect you? What do you do to keep positive during the winter? Maybe a little tobogganing.
Totally. Like I do. I have kids, so I literally took my kids tobogganing last weekend, and that is very exhilarating, and it does, bring some joy into winter. And it is tough. I have several friends who suffer, quite heavily from seasonal affective disorder, and I certainly feel it myself. Winter is it's just tough in Canada,
it's a hard time. Especially this one. It's been freezing outside.
Yeah, and the daylight. I find. I don't know. What I do is. I kind of keep score, to be honest. I actually will sort of check in with myself to say, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how am I doing right now, So that when you're feeling at the bottom, you realize that it's not all the time that you're down there, right?
Yeah.
It's just like a bad moment because there's ups and downs. And I tell my kids that too. It's like when they're miserable or something, I'll say like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you? And they're like, I'm a 1. Right? And then I'll remind them a little bit later when they're actually playing and having a good time. Well, how do you feel now?
I'm a 10.
I'm a 10. And then, so the next time they say they're a 1, they can't say that they've always been a 1 and it's been awful all the time, So there's some perspective again on,
that's an awesome technique.
On watching it come and go. And I don't know, my other friend who has terrible winters. He's a real punk rock guy. He's covered in tattoos and he's just an old time punk rock guy. He wears a suit all winter long because it's sort of like put on the suit, look good, feel good. He has he'll get up in the morning and he'll wear a suit even if he's going to work or not. I mean, he works at a record store, so he certainly doesn't have to wear a suit. But it's kind of this like I'm going to take charge this winter and not let it get me down. So.
That's great.
That's what he does.
So when we're talking about using music as an emotional outlet, is there something that you would say to someone who's maybe going through a rough time and feeling like they've lost hope just from, a music perspective? Any words of wisdom?
I think, I don't know, it's funny, like I come from a Buddhist background, as I was saying. And one of the things that's really different in Buddhism from, say, Christianity is the sense of hope. Okay. Like in Buddhism, hope is the same as fear. Like they're two sides of the same coin. Okay. Like if you have hope, then you're basically, you're running away from something, So I think that part of it is to actually not constantly try to escape from the sadness, but really feel it, but keep perspective. Like don't suppress it, but don't indulge in it either. And there's a kind of a middle ground where you can actually experience your life, genuinely, without running away from it. And there's a lot of poetry and sadness too. A lot of great music and a lot of great art has come from that. And that's not to say that you need to hold on to it in order to create art, but when it's there, you can channel it into making music or into making art. But you certainly don't need to create a miserable situation in order to create art. Like it's just something that you can. It's like a wind. You can put up a sail when it's there and try to capture it, but if you try to, hang on to your sadness, then it can become something more serious and destructive. But I don't think sadness in itself is particularly anything to be afraid of,